Welcome back. Well, if you thought that the pandemic would bring about lower housing prices, guess again. And our next guest says that millions of renters were struggling before the pandemic and will continue to remain vulnerable without congressional action. We're joined now by Diane Yentel, President and CEO of the National Low Income Housing Coalition. Diane, great to have you back with us. I want to ask, just because so many people did well during the pandemic, and we've talked about that quite a bit on this show, did well at least financially. But, you know, for low-income renters, how has that picture changed for them? How has it been made worse or better?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. So the COVID-19 pandemic exposed and exacerbated the pre-existing affordable housing crisis that we had in our country. So before the pandemic, we had about a shortage of about 7 million homes affordable and available to the lowest income people. So another way of saying that same number is for every 10 of the lowest income renter households, there were fewer than 4 apartments affordable and available to them. And because we had such a shortage, we had about 10 million renter households paying at least half of their income towards rent, and many were paying much more. And so when the COVID-19 pandemic came and cities and states started shutting down, low-wage workers, low-income people started losing jobs. They lost hours at work, they lost wages, and it was harder than ever for them to pay the rent. And while eviction moratoriums kept many of them housed, they fell behind on rent. And as of January of this year, we're estimated to owe about $50 billion in rent and utility arrears.
So I know you have something called the housing wage. It's what a full-time worker would have to make in order to not spend more than 30% of their income on housing. And I know your report revealed that many folks in these low-income areas are paying well more than 50% of their income on housing. So what does that wage need to be in order for these people to make rent?
That's right. So nationally, the housing wage for a modest one-bedroom apartment is $20.40 an hour. So this is clearly almost 3 times as much as a worker who is earning the federal minimum wage earns. And it's more than $2 an hour more than what the average renter earns. So rents are out of reach for low-wage workers and for average renters. And that $20.40 an hour housing wage for a one-bedroom apartment, that's the national number. It varies widely from state to state and city to city. And in many communities, it is much higher than that.
Diane, you say that action is needed from Congress. What action specifically?
Well, the first thing that needs to happen is states and cities need to get the money that Congress already appropriated for emergency rental assistance out to the tenants and landlords who need it to keep renters stably housed. So Congress appropriated $46.5 billion. That's enough to address just about all of the rent and utility arrears that accrued during the pandemic, but the money is getting out much too slowly, and states and cities need to do more and better and faster to get it to tenants and keep them stably housed. Even when they've done so, that money does not address the underlying shortage of homes for the lowest income people. And those same renters who struggle to pay the rent pre-pandemic and during the pandemic will continue to struggle to pay it after, unless and until Congress invests in solutions to keep homes affordable for the lowest income people. And they have a tremendous opportunity to do that right now as Congress considers a multi-trillion-dollar spending bill that could include as much as $300 billion in housing investments as President Biden has proposed. So we would urge Congress to enact those proposals and ensure that those investments are targeted to programs that keep the lowest income people affordably and stably housed.
All right, Diane Yentel, President and CEO of the National Low Income Housing Coalition, thanks so much for joining us.